Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Levi. I'm the founder of Dynamic. We help accountancy and financial firms work smarter and not harder. We leverage AI to automate processes, streamline workflows, and enhance client communication. And today, I'm on the podcast, The Balance, with a very special guest, Luke. Luke, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here. Could you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
My name is Luke Smith. I have been a chartered accountant for about 24 years. Set up 15 years ago in a small practice with two or three people, and have grown my current organisation to about 175 people along the way.
Nice, nice. All
We're
right. So,
in, yeah, we're in Jersey. We're in the Channel Islands in Jersey, which is a tiny, tiny little place, about 100,000 people. So it's quite unique circumstances.
all right. Okay, cool. And can you tell us a little bit more about your full journey, basically? So when you were like a little kid and you were just getting into the real world, let's say like that, how did you start? What did you do? How did you get into like accountancy and starting that firm? And how did you get into what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so I mean, when I was about 11 or 12, there was a program on BBC Two which was called Working Lunch, and that was about an hour where they talked about business, and that's really what started me interested in businesses and how they worked and all the problems that they had. And then my dad would come home from work and we took debate the issues and what was going on around the dinner table. Always knew that was always good at decent at maths, so felt accountancy was the right way forward. Did sort of business studies and maths at A level, did accounting and finance at university, went straight to KPMG, joined them when I was 18, 19. 21, 22. And did 3 or 4 years with KPMG, qualified there. Then went into industry for 3 or 4 years, became finance director at a large local trust company with multi jurisdictional offices. And then in 2007, got the chance to buy into the accountancy practice that I still work with and for today. So that was, 18, just over 18 years ago now, that I started in that practice. 2011, I went to, I had a business partner back then. We had to split up because we had very different views of the world. And my view of the world was that accountants should be getting more involved with their clients, helping them run their businesses, telling them what's going on with their businesses, and spending a lot more time with them. And we had 4 or 5 clients back in late 2011. And we're up to sort of, well, I think there's 50 or 60 fractional CFO clients now in the accountancy practice, and another sort of 200 clients, business clients, in the practice. So it's obviously grown. It hasn't grown fast, but Jersey's quite a small place. There aren't that many businesses over here, and we've got a decent reputation both locally and nationally. So we've been shortlisted a couple of times as the best small practice in Britain over the last few years, and that's because of our level of attention to detail in what we're doing and how involved we get with our clients and how we help them grow. Yeah.
All right. That's nice. And right now, we already talked about a little bit in just before the podcast as well. You aren't that active anymore in that specific business that we just talked about, because I would see you more as like an investor or a businessman. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, you're a businessman, but the real businessman that I would look up to, and probably loads of other people would look up to as well. Could you tell us more about those steps and what you're doing mostly right now?
Yeah, but about sort of 6 or 7 years ago, I worked out that most of the clients I was working with were mid 50s in age and they were going to retire. The only time we lost clients in the past was when they sold out to someone bigger. And so I thought the best way to protect the accountancy practice was to start buying those businesses myself. So we did our first acquisition 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. We raised some money. So we went to borrow some money from sort of friends of friends. And yeah, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've gone from just the accountancy practice where there were about 10 people to There's probably about 9 businesses and 21 companies and 175 staff. So we're buying businesses every year. We buy sort of 3 or 4 businesses each year. A lot of them are clients of the accountancy practice, so we know a lot about them because we do their numbers every month. And so the risk is sort of lower because we're doing our due diligence as we go along, and we know some of the issues and some of the staff problems and some of the areas for change that the business owners didn't have time or inclination to make themselves. So it's really that continuing, now we're continuing the plan with trying to sort of build a portfolio of professional services companies across IT, accountancy, marketing, HR, recruitment, property, so that we can be a one-stop shop on the island for all local businesses who want to have best-in-class professional services.
It's really cool to think about that. To like, I don't want to say like to save the accounting firm, you started to buy other businesses, but like it helps, of course. But now also the accounting firm really helps with buying the business because you have a little bit of like an advantage because you know their numbers, you know what is a good one to invest in and what not.
Yeah, and the owners, obviously we work together a lot, and there's a lot of trust. So
Yeah.
I mean, the only issue sometimes can be, valuation is where we start to create conflict. But we're very honest about what we think it's worth, and if they don't want to sell for that, they don't have to. They can go and find somewhere else to sell it. But it's an easy solution for them if they're happy with the price.
Yeah. And for you right now, since I assume that since you're more into like acquiring other businesses, your day-to-day operations for you as a person look a little bit different than when you were just the CEO of the accounting firm. Let's say like that, like the managing director. What does it look like right now? What is like a normal day in your life? What are you working on?
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't, because most of my time was actually spent helping the local clients grow or understand their numbers better. And now I've just got internal clients to look after, and I still do external client work. So I still look after local businesses who come in and want some advice. And obviously, because it's such a small place and we're involved in so many businesses, we know a lot about what's going on, and we can really help people even more than we used to be able to. So, yeah, I mean, today, I've been negotiating the purchase of another company. Then I went to see a potential new client to convince them to come on board, and then, was actually doing some spreadsheet stuff because one of our FD's away on holiday, so I had to help out with that. So, it's very varied. A lot of it is management. We have across our 8 companies, we have 8 managing directors, and they're all quite new because the previous owners have sold the business and they've left. And so we're helping those people become really good managing directors in their own right and helping them to manage their teams. So there's a lot of oversight of the portfolio.
Right. Yeah. And for you and for the businesses that you now own and run, maybe, what are like your core values? What is important to you in all these businesses and also in the day-to-day operations?
Yeah, we have a commonality across all of them. In professional services, it's all about trust and relationship and making sure that you don't damage those. So dependability, integrity, and commerciality are our three values. How does that show up every day? So dependability is, do what you say you're going to do. Make and keep promises. Integrity is act as if everything you're doing is going to be front page news. There's a lot of people here and we don't want to upset anyone that we don't have to by doing, and we don't want to do anything stupid because we're here for the long term. And then commerciality is really around thinking about short term, medium term, and long term consequences of decisions. It's okay just to be short termist, but we're trying to build a business that will keep forever. It's all our pensions, the people that own it. So we don't want to be, we're happy to forego a little bit of short-term gain for long-term gain. It's just trying to be commercial, but don't waste money and don't be stupid. Right? That's the key.
That's the most important one. Don't waste money, make a lot of money, don't be stupid. Nice. All right. And what are your goals? Because to me, it sounds like you're doing amazing. You're growing a lot. There must be maybe an ideal point or maybe some place you're really working towards or you're just enjoying it. What is like the big goal or the big thing that you want?
Yeah, I mean, in a couple of years' time, I'll have been doing this 20 years, and working very hard, most days. I'm slowing down a bit, which is good, but ultimately, I want to replace my, like most people, I guess, I want to replace my salary with dividend income, have an organization that can mostly look after itself and a group of people that are excited and motivated to work there. Not every day because it's not going to happen, right? But just generally speaking, keep the team happy. If we can keep the team happy, make the clients happy, and if the clients are happy, the shareholders will be happy. So, it's finding that balance between all those three. And for me, I think I'll always be involved. I probably, in the short term, I don't want to be um, as involved as I currently am. But I'll still be around, and I love turning up and debating and arguing with people and all that sort of stuff. So I'll just continue to do that for a long time. Yeah.
Okay. And with the business right now, like I said, to me, it comes across as if everything is going very well, and I think it is. So that's great. I'm happy for that. Happy for you. But as I know, and as I think we all know, in every business there is always mistakes that are made, challenges, obstacles. What is like a big challenge or a big obstacle that you are facing as an entrepreneur and with your businesses at the moment that you're trying to overcome, of course?
Yeah, no, I think the speed with which the technology is changing is really interesting. We have 20% of our staff are offshore in the Philippines, and we're trying to work out how much, what percentage of our team should be local in Jersey, what percentage of our team should be offshore in Philippines, and how much technology do we need in order to be, to grow and to support the team and to support the relationships we want to build with clients. Again, professional services is about relationships. So I think that's one. There's lots of tools out there. We're just not sure how you go about picking the right ones. The speed of change is so fast that if you pick one now and something better comes along in the short term. And I think the other thing is more and more local people who work with us are going to have to become sort of relationship managers and salespeople and very outgoing. And we've got, and we've got a lot of introverts that work in accountancy practices and other things. And it's like, well, how do you help them, come out of their shell and start to build relationships in a different way? So there's always, every day has some problem of some sort. But that's sort of a bigger, more strategic piece. Is what is the direction of travel for the next 3 years in terms of technology? How do we know? What are we going to get wrong? How fast can we change if we do get it spectacularly wrong? All that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and this is also a point that I always want to go into with the podcast, and since it's also like has a lot to do with the business that we run, and this is AI. I'm very curious. What have you implemented? What are you in your businesses doing at the moment with AI, and what's your overall vision or opinion on it?
Yeah, I mean, we're not, we're using it to as meeting prep. So doing in depth, it's like Google Plus, on individuals and making sure that we know as much as we can about the meetings that we're going to, the people that we're going to see, what they care about, all those sorts of things. We're not using it in a clever way at all around workflows or agents or anything else like that. We started to investigate that. We're looking at customer service centers and how we might introduce some form of technology to ensure that, every email is responded to and all those sorts of things. But we don't want to break the human contact. And again, it's like I said at the start, it's trying to identify how does the technology support building relationships, not become the relationship. That's going to be the key thing. It feels like when the internet came out, it feels like this is a shift, and it's a shift that no, we're not going back from. But the question is, what are the good bits of it and what are the inevitable bad bits of it? And how do we, visualize that? How do we understand it? And I don't know, who predicted everything that would happen on the internet? And, the main use of AI last year was friendship for lonely people. So
Yeah.
that's sad. That's really sad. So
Mhm.
what is it, how do we use it in our different businesses? Information collation. So we've probably got 2,500 to 3,000 clients on the island. We look after 6,000 or 7,000 properties. That's a lot of information. Nobody, and it's how do we bring that together? How do we understand it, but not do it in a way that's creepy or manipulative or that's genuine and authentic and valuable to clients and staff. And that feels like a question that's almost too big to even start
Yeah.
thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Do you feel like AI will ever like fully take over uh certain specific, yeah, probably some, like I think that's inevitable, but like accounting, for example, let's dive into that one. Do you feel like AI is ever going to be able to fully take over that whole job?
I don't. The reason I don't is that the same transaction can be treated in two different ways depending on, if I had an AI salesman talk to me yesterday in a coffee shop, and he said, accountancy is going to go completely. And I said, okay, but if I'm sitting here with you as a friend and we buy this coffee, that's posted differently than if I'm sitting with, someone else as a client. And it's so there's still going to be a lot of information gathering from humans, and there's going to be, there are elements of how you treat things that, depending on your circumstances, will change. And yes, you can ask the AI to plug that in. But I think humans will always want someone to take responsibility for decision making. And I don't think a computer is going to be allowed to take responsibility. I think clients are going to want someone to say, you told me that was okay. And so it's how we, I think that's the key thing. But yeah, I mean, it's already the case that I've seen, people having AI conversations, ChatGPT conversations between the two, but then the authenticity of that seems to mean that, it doesn't feel like they're actually getting the value from the conversation if they picked up the phone or they talk to each other, or that, so it's,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So I don't think it'll take over completely, but I think it will, certainly revolutionize the level of information we have and the clarity of the options that we have to take.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think AI will be able to do a lot, and much, 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 much more than that you and I think today. They will be able to do much more, and so many new things are gonna develop and gonna be done. But there was one thing that AI can't do and is never going to be able to do, and that's feel. Like, I can say some things to you that make you feel a certain way, and you as an accountant can say some things to your clients that can make them feel a certain way, and AI is never going to make me feel a certain way because they can't feel either, like that real human connection.
Yeah.
That's
And sometimes, you take a bad decision that turns out to be a right one, or you take a decision that's more risky that it wouldn't take, and actually, you just got that feeling that I know probably this option is safer or better or more consistent, but actually doing that, I can take that risk because I'm going to deal with it in a different way.
Yeah.
And so I think there's around. It's all the interesting piece will be around decision making.
Yeah. 100%. And next to AI, next to the growth of all these technologies, are there like other key trends right now in the industry that you are in, that you're like responding to, or that you're like looking into?
Yeah, so there's been a few. We went to an expo in London last week, and there's a few pieces of software out there where they're starting to have internal, what I sort of understand as internal ChatGPT, internal Grok, where all of your data systems are linked up and you can ask it questions directly. So that's quite interesting. We started looking at that. We're starting to use workflows for email drafting and things like that. From a pure accounting perspective, we'll probably be relying on Xero or Dext or others to come up with the use cases and then implement. We probably won't be going off and building our own solutions to those problems because somebody with a lot more money is going to have a go at it, and they won't let it out until it's perfect, and then they'll have to look after it and blah 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 blah. So again, it's probably from there's some interesting things people are starting to do around boring stuff like accruals and prepayments and fixed assets and all those sorts of things. But I think they'll just come naturally over the next 12, 18 months. So I wouldn't spend any time thinking about that in any great detail because they'll be on their way. In interaction with, where is the time wasted? It's interaction with data collection, chasing for data, all that sort of stuff. Speeding that up through AI makes a lot of sense. Yeah. having workflows for that, and answering very basic questions. I think accounting's not an industry that innovates that fast, as a group. So we'll have to just wait and see how quickly the tools improve, and then which ones are going to win the race.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Luke, for the accountant that's listening right now, the entrepreneur, the businessman, or someone that is also looking into buying other businesses, what is your best piece of advice that you would give to those people if they're looking to grow, if they're looking to make that next step, if they're looking to innovate or just reach their goals?
Yeah, I mean, I think people will grow a lot quicker than I have. It's taken me a long time to get here, but I've kept my promises along the way. I'm quite good at communicating to people. I often will tell people things that aren't in my short-term interest to tell them. So I've built reputation over a long period of time. Growth and innovation is about risk taking, and if you've got lots of money, then you can take more risks because it doesn't hurt as much. And so, if you've got no money and you take a load of risks, you got to just paddle really fast, right? And go for it. And I think that's it. A lot of people stay stuck because they're afraid of the risk. My big thing is, 15 years ago, I went off and read about 50 or 60 textbooks on pricing, business theory, growth, marketing, all these different things. And I still use all of that information every day. So, it's boring to say lifelong learning, but it is true. I think that's the thing. And finding, to a degree, I've got a lot of people around me that I trust completely. They trust me completely. And it takes a village is a cliche, but we've got different skill sets. One of my business partners is incredibly sociable and very friendly and knows everybody and everybody loves him, and I'm not like that. So we've got the right blend. We've got a good blend of people to help us grow. And I think that's it. Some people want to go off and do it all on their own, but it's lonely and exhausting. The world's probably not like that anymore. I don't know, maybe it's in a small business context. So, but then partnerships go wrong all the time. So, it's giving it a go. Being well researched. There's no excuse for not being well researched now because you've got all the tools that to go and do that. Just as much as you can, talk to people, build relationships, build trust as fast as you can. I probably spent too much time doing work and not enough time building the business, 10, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I enjoyed the work and I was good at it. So. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I'd wanted to grow faster and perhaps be 5 years ahead of where I am now, I'd have spent more time working on the business than in the business. Another cliche, but that's it's definitely true.
Yeah, in Dutch there is this saying, or I don't even know if it's a saying, but something loads of people say. I say as well, but I think all cliches are true.
Yeah,
well, that's maybe why it's like a cliche.
Yeah.
At least loads of them. Luke, if people want to work with you, if they want to learn more from you, or if they want to connect with you, or maybe if they want to sell them their business to you, where can they best find you?
Yeah, so the website's www.rialto.je is the best place to find me. It's luke.smith@purpose.je is my email address, and those are the best two ways to get in touch.
All right, Luke, I really want to thank you so much for your time. It was a really nice podcast, super valuable. I really learned a lot in only this little half an hour, so I really appreciate that. Do you've got any last words for the podcast, maybe?
Oh, no, thanks for having me on. And no, it's been good to have a chat.
Perfect. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen at home, thank you so much for listening. I will put the website and the email address and the socials of Luke also in the description of the podcast below. Again, Luke, thank you so much for your time. And this was The Balance.